The scene shifts to a hospital, which is usually where people go when something is very wrong. Inside the room, a doctor sits across from the boy. She looks professional, calm, completely ordinary, the kind of doctor you'd expect to see anywhere. She checks his condition and asks him a simple question, basically wondering what he sees. The guy looks up at her, completely serious, and asks if she's joking. Because according to him, she's not a doctor, she's a pig. Not a weird face, not a little distorted. No, a full-on pig. The doctor freezes for a second, because that is definitely not the answer she expected. She tries to stay professional, even though internally she's probably questioning her entire career choice right now. So she pushes the question further, curious what exactly he sees. The guy thinks for a moment, looks around the room, and calmly gives his diagnosis. 2 pigs. Yeah, not 1, 2. At this point, the doctor is trying very hard not to lose it. She starts whispering to herself, because in her mind, this guy is definitely a psychiatric case. But the boy just stares at her, completely serious. He insists he's telling the truth. To him, that doctor looks exactly like a pig. And now, the doctor has officially decided something is very wrong with this kid. She explains that his brain scans show unusual activity. Something around his spine seems abnormal, which means they might need to run more tests. The guy hears that, and suddenly his expression changes, because the only thing he cares about right now is getting his spine back. Yeah, apparently he's very attached to it. The doctor is now even more confused, which is impressive, because she was already confused. And just like that, the scene cuts. We move outside the hospital. Traffic moving, people living normal lives. Meanwhile, our main character is sitting quietly on a bus, and he introduces himself. His name is Ye Chuan, and he has what doctors call a severe mental disorder, because according to him, everything he sees looks like pigs. People, crowds, everyone. To him, they all look the same. A world full of pigs. He thought maybe it was just a temporary problem, something that would eventually disappear. But recently, it's been getting worse. Which brings us to today. The setting shifts to Ching Academy. Today is a very important day. The class awakening ceremony. Students gather in a massive courtyard, all waiting for their abilities to awaken. In the center stands a giant floating crystal, and the principal begins explaining the rules. This crystal determines your class. Warrior, mage, support, whatever the system decides, your future basically depends on touching that crystal. One by one, students step forward, touch the crystal, and receive their destiny. Then a student named Li Zhenlong steps up. The crystal erupts with golden energy, lightning bursts everywhere, and his class appears. Combat class, S-tier fighter. The crowd instantly explodes. An S-tier, that's extremely rare. People start cheering like they just witnessed a superstar being born. Even the principal looks impressed. But then he glances toward the crowd, towards someone standing quietly in the back. Ye Chuan. Because compared to everyone else, this guy looks completely uninterested. He walks forward slowly, and now everyone's watching, because even the principal seems curious. He tells the boy to step up and place his hand on the crystal. So Ye Chuan does. The crystal immediately reacts, energy bursts out, lightning crashes down. But something about this reaction feels wrong. Instead of a powerful combat class, the crystal displays a strange result. Life class. Butcher. The entire crowd goes silent, then immediately erupts in laughter. A butcher in a combat academy. That's basically the worst possible class you could get. Even the principal looks disappointed. He starts wondering if the crystal made a mistake, because this academy rarely produces useless classes. But then Ye Chuan looks around the crowd, and suddenly his ability activates. A strange system screen appears in front of him. Information begins scanning everything around him, and one line stands out. Bonus, extra damage to pigs. The boy slowly looks up, at the crowd, at the students, at the teachers, and from his perspective, They all look the same. A massive crowd of pigs. He smiles slightly, because in his eyes, this entire world is full of pigs. Ye Chuan quietly walks down from the awakening stage. Behind him, the giant crystal is still glowing. Meanwhile, the crowd is already losing it. Students start laughing, like they just witnessed the funniest thing all year. From their perspective, the academy didn't produce a dragon, just a pig butcher. One guy can barely breathe from laughing. Another one is already pointing at Ye Chuan like he's a walking joke. Apparently, Chingcheng Academy has only one real dragon, and it's definitely not this guy. Then someone steps in front of him, a girl with long silver hair. She reaches up and gently pats his head, and calmly tells him something interesting. Apparently, awakening as a pig butcher is basically inheriting his father's legacy, which sounds supportive, but also kind of brutal. Meanwhile, two guys in the crowd are practically crying with jealousy. One of them looks like he's about to eat his own shirt, because apparently this useless class still counts as a high-tier profession. Life really isn't fair sometimes. The girl looks at Ye Chuan again, slightly embarrassed. Turns out they've known each other since childhood. Shu Ling Xuan, his neighbor, their families even tried pairing them together when they were kids. Yeah, this just got awkward. Right as she's talking, the principal announces the next name, Shu Ling Xuan. Her turn to awaken. She smiles at Ye Chuan. A little nervous, but still determined. She says something simple. No matter what class she awakens, she'll stay by his side. Ye Chuan just stands there, completely frozen, probably not expecting that. Then Shu Ling Xuan walks toward the crystal. She slowly raises her hand and touches it. The crystal instantly explodes with light. Energy pours out like a storm. Wind starts blasting through the courtyard. Everyone nearby immediately panics. Even the principal looks shocked. The crystal keeps glowing brighter and brighter. Then suddenly, a new class appears. Combat Profession. Legendary class. Snow Soul Sword Immortal. For a moment, the entire academy goes silent. Shu Ling Xuan stands on the awakening platform, and suddenly, the entire place freezes. Because the crystal just confirmed it. She awakened a legendary combat class. Even the principal looks shocked, sweat running down his face, because her parents are both life class professionals, which means this shouldn't even be possible. But the girl just stands there calmly, wrapped in glowing blue energy, looking like she just walked out of a fantasy movie. The principal immediately switches tone. From ceremony host to full customer service mode, he basically promises that Chingcheng Academy will support her no matter what. Because when a legendary class appears, you treat them like royalty. Shu Ling Xuan simply thanks him and walks down from the platform. Meanwhile, the crowd is already whispering. One person points out the obvious. One of them awakened a pig butcher. The other awakened a legendary combat class. Yeah, that gap is basically the Grand Canyon. Meanwhile, Ye Chuan just stands there, watching everything. Then he suddenly puts his hands together and politely congratulates her, completely serious, which honestly makes the moment even more awkward. Shu Ling Xuan stops walking, then slowly turns around and calls his name, Ye Chuan. Her voice suddenly sounds different, not friendly, not warm, more like someone preparing a speech. She admits something first, that there were misunderstandings between them before. But starting today, those misunderstandings should be cleared up, because the reality is simple. They are no longer from the same world. The girl who awakened a legendary class and the boy who became a pig butcher now live in completely different lanes. One guy in the crowd is clearly enjoying this way too much. That's Brother Long, local professional bully. Meanwhile, Ye Chuan suddenly nods, like he just reached a decision, and calmly says, "All right." Shu Ling Xuan looks at him again, and suddenly starts talking like she's giving a motivational speech. She tells him she knows this must be hard. Awakening a useless class must be a heavy blow. Then she goes straight to the point. He's just a pig butcher, and people like that will never accomplish anything great. Ye Chuan just stares at her, completely expressionless. Then he simply says, "Don't blame him." Because honestly, to Ye Chuan, she still looks like a pig. So when she's delivering this dramatic speech, all he sees is a pig lecturing him, which makes the moment a lot less intimidating. Ye Chuan just smiles, completely relaxed. In his head, he's already celebrating. Finally, he got rid of the pig head. Then he casually turns around, like the conversation is finished, and starts walking away. But someone else in the crowd isn't happy. The red-haired guy suddenly shouts, "Hey, pig butcher!" He screams for Ye Chuan to come back. Ye Chuan pauses, looks slightly confused. Meanwhile, the red-haired guy loses his patience. He starts yelling that he's talking to him. Then he grabs Ye Chuan's arm, clearly trying to drag him back. The crowd immediately starts watching, because now things are getting interesting. Ye Chuan slowly turns his head and finally asks one simple question. "What do you want?" The moment those words come out, something changes. His eye suddenly glows red. A strange dark aura starts spreading around him. And the red-haired guy immediately freezes, because the guy he just grabbed suddenly feels like something else entirely. Brother Jinglong charges forward, full speed. He swings his fist straight at Ye Chuan's face, except something feels wrong. Because the moment Jinglong gets close, he suddenly freezes. In Jinglong's mind, the scene changes. Ye Chuan isn't standing there anymore. No, now he looks like a butcher, holding a knife, and Jinglong is the pig, tied to the chopping block. Yeah, that's not a good mental image. Jinglong instantly starts sweating because the look in Ye Chuan's eyes feels like a butcher deciding where to cut, and everyone bursts out laughing. From their perspective, nothing happened. It just looks like Brother Jinglong randomly froze in the middle of a fight. One of his friends even asks what's wrong with him, which makes Jinglong even more furious. He screams at Ye Chuan, calling him a brat. Then he charges again, this time throwing a full punch. But before the punch can land, Ye Chuan moves. One quick motion, he grabs Jinglong's wrist and instantly locks it in place. Just like that, Jinglong's entire arm stops moving. Then Ye Chuan slowly lifts his head, eyes glowing red. The aura around him suddenly becomes heavy, and Jinglong immediately realizes this situation is very bad. He tries to pull his arm back, but it doesn't move, not even a little, because Ye Chuan's grip is like a steel clamp. Jinglong starts screaming, his hand twisting under the pressure. Meanwhile, the crowd finally notices something's wrong. Shuling Xuan stares in shock because Jinglong, a trained fighter, is being completely overpowered by a guy who supposedly awakened a pig butcher class. Jinglong collapses to his knees, still trying to pull his hand free. Then he yells the obvious question. How is this even possible? But Ye Chuan just looks down at him calmly. Then he gives the most casual explanation imaginable. Of course, a pig butcher has strong grip strength.